Yo, all right. Hopefully this is connecting well. I'm at my house here. Oftentimes the connection's not that good because we kind of live in, the forest-ish, if you want to call it that. I got my selfie pal going here. But what I want to talk about today, very important, relates to a video I just put out on the feed, IGTV video, but you can see the actual preview for the video on our feed, just about something that happened with Facebook censorship. I basically tell the whole story in that video, but to sum it up so you can kind of just be brought up to speed, because I want to talk about election meddling today in this live. But to sort of, you have this idea of Facebook and Instagram and all these things. I'm using it right now. I'm on Instagram, right? And it's a means for me to connect to you. But here's a challenge. The challenge is that we can connect to some extent. Only a few of you of the 300 and something thousand people are going to even jump on this live or even see this live. And, part of that is just algorithms. Part of that is just the way things work with these social media giants and so forth. But, there's this idea of censorship. And sometimes when we're not inside an alternative media outlet, it's difficult to know what that actually looks like and what those impacts actually are. So the reason why I did the video I just recently did was to kind of discuss a recent occurrence that happened where essentially a story, this is our fourth story that got clicked as fake news. Three of them we've gotten the strike removed because, to be honest, they were bullshit strikes. They weren't true. It was the person who did the fact checking, as they call it, was wrong. And so we basically just emailed them, cleared it up, and it was clear. That's it. That's all. But essentially what happened is we got a new one, and it was about, basically we put out a story talking about a Harvard immunologist, and that Harvard immunologist had written an open letter to Congress stating that from all her research and her experience and everything that she had been doing, she basically stated that unvaccinated children do not pose a risk to vaccinated children, regardless of what the media says, right? And so here people are having this conversation of saying, hey, you know what? Vaccines are a huge topic, right? We need to talk about this. So here someone comes forward and says, I got a lot of expertise and we need to, here's my thoughts to the equation. We look at that story, we say, okay, well, that's interesting. Rewrite an article about it saying, here's what this Harvard, immunologist said. We couple that with a whole bunch of other research that we've been seeing over the years, and we put that out there. Facebook then comes and gives us a strike saying that this thing is false, the story is false, that unvaccinated children pose a huge risk to society, and that you can't be writing articles about, Harvard immunologists basically saying, you know what, this isn't true. Unvaccinated kids don't pose a risk to society. So here we now have the effects of when you get a strike on your Facebook page, your reach is reduced. We see it every single time it happens. All of a sudden, our stats go down, our traffic go down, our revenue goes down immensely. So I was just doing a little video. Again, you can watch this whole thing in the other video. I was doing a video about it. And then I got to thinking about election meddling, right? And I started to think, okay, well, as a person who's been inside alternative media for the last 10 years, and specifically watching what happened in 2016 when Trump was voted into, power, as they like to call it, voted in, right? Which, to be honest, we're going to have a little bit of a discussion about that in this too when we're talking about voting. But when we watched what happened, what we saw was you have, essentially an outsider, if you will, someone who's like just coming out of nowhere into politics and is making some waves, right? Is making some waves within this whole thing because alternative media was talking about it. And he was all over social media. And it garnered attention. Whether you agree with Trump or not, it doesn't matter in this particular talk. We're just talking about how he rose to some sort of level of attention. He was getting a lot of attention from people. On the flip side, you had Hillary Clinton, you had Bernie Sanders, right? Bernie Sanders, as everybody knows, if anybody's paying any attention to anything outside of the mainstream media, Bernie Sanders was systematically removed as a voting option for the DNC by the DNC, i.e., the DNC and Hillary Clinton meddled within the United States election in 2016 to remove Bernie Sanders from being able to be part of the whole equation, i.e., they meddled in the election. After the election, right, when Trump won, if you want to call it that. Really, that's a whole, he didn't win anything. Neither, nobody actually wins an election. What actually happens is people are selected for the most part, right? We can start looking at shadow government. We can start looking at the Electoral College. We can say, what do you think the Electoral College really is? If they have the ability to overrule a vote, that's saying they don't care ever who votes for what. What they're concerned with is, are we going to put the right person that we want in power? So why did the Electoral College jump in this particular case? Because essentially what happened was a bunch of people got together and started to move away from this elite, shadowy government that has a very dystopian view for humanity. They started to move away from that. And instead, they said, no, we're going to try a different path and see what happens. From a consciousness perspective, humanity agrees to that, says, yeah, we need things to be shooken up here because we need to start talking. We need to start seeing things in a clearer way. And we need to talk in order to do that. So Trump makes his way in power, both from a physical world perspective of people dividing, and also from a consciousness perspective, people said, yeah, we're ready for something different. So that's how it happened. But, the elite didn't like that. And the DNC was pissed off. Hillary was pissed off. The deep state was pissed off. So what'd they do? They created this enemy. They used the classic thing that Americans are always sort of falling for, which is Russia's trying to get you. And Russia is threatening what the founding fathers put into place. Russia is threatening democracy of the United States, right? This is the story. This is what we heard for 2 years. Bullshit. Right? Utter bullshit. We know that now. And for the person who just asked, I'm from Canada, so for me, it's like you're watching the elections from a distance. But anybody, whether you're in the United States or anywhere in the world, you can take a step back and you can look at what's happening in the world and see things pretty clearly. But anyway, so they created this idea that there's some enemy out there trying to meddle in the elections, right? So what then starts to happen? You now have all of these conversations going on, social media, Instagram. Does Facebook have too much power? Do they allow, are they watching foreign meddling close enough when it comes to the elections? Are they watching, these potentials coming in and changing the way people think about things? Are they watching it close enough? That became the discussion and the question. And everyone started to go, ooh, yeah, well, that's interesting. Let's start thinking about, whether or not that there's some foreign meddling going on in the election. Well, what did that do? That distracted from the reality, the very provable reality through WikiLeaks and everything like that the DNC and Hillary Clinton teamed up to meddle in the United States election to remove Bernie Sanders as a candidate. Nobody wants to talk about that because you can actually prove election meddling. Instead, let's spend 2 years trying to investigate whether or not Russia meddled within the election. And at the end of the day, you realize, well, no, that didn't really happen. And in terms of, do I realize I could be wrong? Of course, we question that all the time. We do our research all the time. There was a question just came in. Do you ever question, what you're saying? Of course. But I also look at the evidence. I look at the facts. I look at WikiLeaks, who provided all of this information showing exactly what the DNC did. It's not even a question. WikiLeaks to this day has never had to retract a story. They have the actual leaks. They have what's out there. They have what's going on. They have the emails that show communication between Hillary Clinton and other members of the DNC to remove Bernie from the equation. That's what happened, right? So we start to look at this, right? Okay, look at the current election right now. Tulsi Gabbard, right? Very interesting candidate. We've been reporting on her for 3 years. Now, I'm going to speak in terms of politics for a second. I'm not saying politics is the answer. I'm not saying let's dive into politics and get all lost into that whole story because that is a whole story on its own. But you look at Tulsi Gabbard coming in, saying things that are different, saying that a lot of the wars that go on are illusions. They're basically just getting the public to engage in this imaginary enemy so that the military-industrial complex can go and take over what's going on, right? That's what's going on here. She's talking about this. She just did an interview on Joe Rogan. I didn't watch the whole thing, so I can't comment on all of it, but I watched about 20 minutes of it, and I was like, yeah, I mean, she's still speaking the truth to some extent here, right? Like, she's given enough of the equation. Do you see the DNC pushing Tulsi Gabbard out of the equation? Yeah, she doesn't really have a platform to speak all that much. She's fighting just to get a little bit of voice in here and there. She's not even part of the polls that show how much support she's getting from the public. She's removed systematically from the equation. Is that not election meddling? Why are we hearing stories about, oh, we got to go in and we got to watch out for these people meddling, these foreign interests meddling in the elections? The only people meddling in the elections are the deep state, right? However you want to look at that. There's so many ways to define that. We can go all day defining what that looks like. But let's get more specific. We know the DNC meddled. We know they're meddling again. I'm sure the Republican National Convention is doing the exact same thing. They're also going and saying, hey, you know what? I think they actually call it the GOP in the States. My apologies. But what's happening now? You have establishment Republicans that are getting all the limelight, right? Media is still destroying anything that Trump is doing because he's a threat to what's going on to some extent, not all the way, to some extent, a threat. And that's all that matters right now is to some extent. It doesn't have to be the full solution. To some extent, that's all we need, right? So what do you start to see? You start to see establishment leaders, i.e. those that are willing to push war, that are willing to push, just destroying everything that goes on within humanity. That kind of stuff gets a lot of attention, i.e. meddling in the election. Facebook, Google, Twitter, Instagram, meddling in the election. How are they doing that? Well, we're not even allowed to talk about various stories on our Facebook page because, well, you got to what fake news trackers came out because people were meddling in the election. No, all that actually happened was alternative media got a lot of attention. People were paying attention to what was going on in independent and alternative media, and the mainstream media couldn't control that. And the elite and the deep state couldn't control that. They didn't have the infrastructure in place to control that. So people started to go, hey, what's going on? And they made different choices and decisions in life. Now, what's happening is they're saying, well, we can't let that happen again. So let's create a whole bunch of BS PR and BS news, which we've heard for the last 2 years, about how, foreign entities meddled in the election. Oh, we got to watch out for fake news online, which it is a problem to some extent, but not even close to what's going on. Look at what's happening to us. We keep getting tagged with fake news by Facebook all the time. Destroys our revenues, destroys our reach, makes it so that you don't have a choice as to what you see for the most part on Facebook. Our traffic has gone from 20 million hits a month down to like 3 million hits a month. That's a gigantic decrease, all under the guise of we're protecting democracy. We're protecting the elections. We're protecting, the idea of a free and open society. Because we need to do that, because foreign entities are meddling. Do I look? Sure, I guess I'm from Canada, so maybe by me saying something, I'm a foreign entity, providing you a different perspective that might change the way you look at the world, that might change the way you vote. If you participate in voting, that's a choice you make, right? So am I a foreign entity meddling? Sure, I'm a foreign entity meddling. Shut me down. That's essentially what's happening. That's what you're being told. Right? I'm not saying you as in like maybe you already know this, right? It's just the idea is that we need to start seeing more clearly what's actually happening. We need to start seeing more clearly, and some of us on this already do. But the other side to it is take the things that are very obvious. Take the things that we can easily see, that we can easily talk about. There's nobody who can deny the DNC meddling in the election. Take that story, talk to people about that. Talk to your average person from a calm, collected point of view and say, hey, this is what the DNC did. Who's really meddling in the election now? What's really going on? And have that discussion. Because the reality is Facebook and Instagram are able to control what you think or what you see, i.e. meddling in the election, just based on algorithms. One small switch and they can do it. Back in the 2016 election, if you went on to Google and you typed in Hillary, and as soon as you finished typing in Hillary, all these positives would come up in terms of like suggestions for what you could search. Oh, Hillary's amazing, all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. If you kept saying like Hillary Clinton, WikiLeaks, Hillary Clinton, it wouldn't give you many options. The moment you put in TRUMP, it would already start Trump a bad guy, Trump, sexist, Trump racist, Trump xenophobe, Trump this, Trump that, blah, blah, blah. What is this? Again, it doesn't matter whether you agree nor disagree with Trump, agree nor disagree with Hillary. That's irrelevant in this conversation. The the algorithms on Google and on Facebook are telling you who you should or shouldn't be voting for. And they're shifting the perspective. Do you know how many people still sit here and think like Trump is the most racist individual in the world because of what the media said over the last 2 years? It's crazy. It's crazy, that sort of stuff. And again, we don't support Trump. I don't really care, anything about, saying, hey, yeah, go vote for Trump. We don't say that at all. But you can see when the media is trying to pull a fast one, when they're trying to lie, when they're trying to do these sorts of things. And it's not real. It's bullshit. It's like it's complete and utter bullshit. And so I wanted to do this live because it's about giving people this clear depiction of what goes on behind the scenes in alternative media. Go have a look at the video in our feed that I just put out saying, this is what's, you think censorship was bad, have a look at this. Go have a look at that video, because I'm going to go through in that video a story that shows exactly what is going on. And not only that, but we need to not only I'm a little heated in that video. You'll see it. This is, the first time in a very long time. I don't ever produce media where I'm like heated and getting upset, because I think that's, to be quite honest, I just don't think it's that helpful. All right, that's not how we do things here. But I'm a little heated in that video, and I am, because it's like, this is crazy. It's like at the snap of a fingers, someone can incorrectly claim something about our work and shut us down. What the heck is that? That doesn't make any sense, right? So I wanted to say that. I wanted to come on here. I just wanted to put that out there, because really what this is about, really what needs to happen here is we need to start obviously questioning, right? Obviously everything, paying attention to alternative media, all that sort of stuff. But we need to start realizing that the media that we've even put out for the past 10 years, we've put out because we've been able to fund ourselves. We've been able to find ways to fund. And slowly but surely, right? Our funding, and it's not just ours. There's so many people out there. I'm sure there's people watching this live who can relate to this, who've had their funding stripped out because maybe they're in media as well. The funding for alternative and independent media is being destroyed. Instagram, do you know why they really are taking away your view of people's likes and view of people's follower count? They're pulling a Facebook all over again, because they are Facebook, right? All they're doing is they're taking away those public metrics so that influencers who build a large following don't have the ability to go monetize their accounts by working with advertisers that they resonate with and say, hey, you know what, I can share your product so long as it resonates with me. That's how we do things. If your product resonates, I'd love to share it with my audience. If it doesn't resonate, we're not going to do that. So they're taking your ability to do that away, because now all of a sudden those companies can't verify how big your following is or how much attention it gets. What's going to happen at the end of the day? Instagram's probably going to come out with something, and mark my words on this one. They're probably going to come out with something saying, hey, now there's a marketplace that's going to connect the influencers with the companies. And they're going to start verifying accounts, and they're going to do all this. And guess who's not going to get the opportunity to be part of that little game? People like us. We're not going to get verified. There's accounts that have like 2,000 likes that are verified on Instagram. We've been applying for verification for like 4 years. We cannot get verified. We can't get verified on Facebook. We have a 5.3 million person account and have had for years. Even before the advent of fake news, we couldn't get verified. They say, give us your articles of incorporation and show us that you're a real company. No problem. That was easy. We supplied that. Oh, your page is not eligible for verification. Why not? Why is this page over here that has 5,000 likes verified? What are they doing that's so different from what we're doing? Well, the more you verify stuff, you verify Facebook accounts, you verify YouTube accounts, you verify Instagram accounts, they know what that does. It creates an idea, an added idea. Not just to say, hey, this is the official account, but it's the added idea of saying, this is credible. This is really what's going on, right? These people are, they're credible. So you can't have accounts like ours verified. You can't have Facebook pages like ours verified. You can't show Google. Type in Collective Evolution on Google. You won't find any of the good media about us. You won't find it. The first page will be littered with stuff about how Collective Evolution is, some irrational, silly thing, blah, blah, blah. Everything, if you actually take the time to read that stuff, it's just emotional rants talking crap about what we do. None of it's actually backed up by any fact or anything like that. It's just emotional rants. I had a journalist one time come to me under false pretenses. I knew her from high school, came to our work. We spent about 2.5 hours at our office together. We had a great time, talked about a whole bunch of different things, right? You meet me as a real person, you realize, hey, this is a normal dude, just authentic and doing what he loves to do. And that's what our whole team is doing, right? So she comes at the end of the whole 3 hours, basically he's like, man, I'm so inspired by what you're doing. I'm so inspired. Like, what books can I read? How could I learn more? How can I start doing this for myself? Because if you spend time really talking and understanding what collective evolution does, it's not just, hey, here's an article or two here and there. It's not just, hey, here's a meme here and there. We're talking about systematically changing who you are on the inside so that we can change our outside world, right? So she starts to feel that in the 3 hours we spent together. She gets excited. How can I do this for myself? I see freedom in what you're saying. I see the ability to actually step out of my suffering and stuff that's going on. How can I learn more? I tell her some books to read where she can start, la-di-da-da-da. I offer myself, anytime you want to talk, I'm here. What happens? About 2 weeks later, I get a draft of the article. She was putting this out on some big science website, right? I get a draft. And the draft is essentially slamming what we do. And not only that, but it was taking so many things I said out of context. It was taking them and spinning them around so that it made me sound like I was a lunatic. And not only that, but she put me up against Michael Shermer, the head of the Skeptic Society, so that he could weigh in on what he thinks of what we're doing. So she asked me a few extra questions, which I answered. And I said, oh my God, Michael Shermer, are you serious? This is the guy that's literally like, and I can't verify this, but from my observation, this guy's like a paid shill that literally goes around to TED events. The major TED events, has this guy speak. And everything he does to speak about the topics he talks about at TED, all he does is ridicule. He doesn't bring up a single fact that debunks anything that he talks about. He just ridicules what's going. That's it. He just ridicules it. So here I have a guy who operates very unscientifically, out of emotion, out of just ridiculed people you don't agree with, so that you can, sort of debunk what's going on. So anyway, I asked the journalist, my friend essentially from high school that came and interviewed me, I said, just out of curiosity, did you take all of this out of context and write this story, or did you get pressure from your editor? And she didn't comment on it. I asked her again, because after she put it live, I was pretty upset, because I'm like, wow, this is journalism from the tubes. Like, this is like bottom of the barrel garbage to basically character assassinate while trying to use collective evolution and my name or whatever to try and build up your rankings of your website, because we had a really high ranking name, and when people would search collective evolution, this article would probably come up on Google. And so she did, basically, this website used me and used collective evolution to trash what we're doing, told a lie, spun the whole story so that it could fit what narrative they wanted. And when I asked the journalist, was it you or your editor who did that? Couldn't even tell me the truth. Couldn't even say whether or not it was the pressure from the editor to do what they did, or whether it was just their own thing. It was crazy. It was complete and utter crap, right? So my point is, at the end of the day, is independent media, there's not a lot left. There's nowhere we can go to get funding, to do what we need to do, because all the platforms demonetize us. YouTube demonetized us in December. And that's not like, demonetization, like, hey, by the way, this video isn't demonetized. They demonetized our whole account. The whole account demonetized. It doesn't matter what video you put up, the whole account, you cannot make money. We don't have a single strike on YouTube. We've never broken a community standard once. If you go to our YouTube page and you go to the back end and you look, it says your account is in perfect standing. And it has been for 10 years. Yet we're demonetized. You can't make any money. So we can't make money there. We're not invited to be part of the Facebook Watch program, and we can't apply for it because that would pay us. We're not allowed to have extended reach, because every single time we put out a story that Facebook doesn't like, they find someone to give us a strike so that we can't do what we need to do. So what's it come down to? We have to create our own platforms, which is what we're doing, right? We're creating our own platforms called CETV. We also create, we're working on right now, which is going to come out soon, a platform that allows us to comment, discuss, work together, talk about things, do journalism. We have our own website. And then this is the other part of the problem. A lot of times people don't know we have a website, that we have a podcast, that we have a YouTube channel, that we have all these things. They have no idea because we share it on social media thousands of times, but nobody sees it. We have almost 10,000 articles that we've written on a website. We have probably I'm pulling this number out of my ass, but I'm sure we have hundreds and hundreds of videos that we've made over the past little while. CETV has over 100 programs already on there. Shows. We have a show that comes out every Tuesday and Thursday on CETV. We have original shows that we create on CETV that come out every Monday and Wednesday. We do exclusive interviews with experts from around the field of what we do. All of this, nobody has any idea that we do. Because when we share it on social media, they don't see it. They have no idea what's actually going on. But you know who you're going to hear from? You're going to hear from the people that put out the feel-good content. The content that's like, ooh, this was such a touching story. And I warned about this about 4 years ago. And you say, why would you warn about feel-good content, Joe? That doesn't make any sense. Here's the thing. Feel-good content, just like everything else, is it about moderation. It's not about covering up the things that we don't like in life and hiding from them and not addressing them, because then guess what? We stay blind to everything, all the time. Feel-good content is there as a piece to your day, not the only thing that you see. Look at what you see all over Facebook, all over Instagram, everywhere. It's useless, feel-good content. When I say useless, it's because they've overdone it. In every page, admins, different people that I've worked with over the past 10 years, all of their websites and Instagrams turned into feel-good content. Why? Because the algorithms favor feel-good content. Because that's not a threat to put out feel-good content. Because feel-good content in excess pacifies the masses. It makes it so that it's like, oh, okay, yeah, this is a nice thing. Yeah, I feel good now. But you don't. You just temporarily masked the reality of what's going on in our world. If feel-good content was working so well to make people feel good, why does every year that go by, depression increases, anxiety increases, people's hopelessness increases, their fear of what's going on in the world, all that sort of stuff? Why is that all increasing? It's increasing because people don't just change from feel-good content. It's a distraction. It's a pacification of the masses. What changes people is when you shake them up and you say, hold on a second, your reality isn't quite what you think it is. Step one of the CE protocol, which is the basis for how we do all of our journalism. Step one is breaking the illusion, which means the world out there, what you think is going on, is not what's actually going on. And here's the truth about what's going on, and we're going to tell that to you in a neutral point of view, which is step two of the CE protocol, which is awakening neutrality. Instead of getting angry and judging and getting pissed off and freaking out and doing what so much of alternative media does too, which is just yell and rant and scream and, pit Republicans against Democrats and, talk about why leftists are stupid all the time. That's what most of alternative media is it's people just talking shit about other people. What's the point of that? Where does that lead? Further divide. You'll have alternative media call out the mainstream media for creating divides. Yet at the same time, alternative media is creating the exact same divide, but in a slightly different way. Because you need conscious media. You need media that includes connecting the heart and the mind and consciousness together, which is what we do, right? Which brings you to step 3 of the CE protocol. After you awaken neutrality, you start deprogramming the limits. Step 1 was breaking the illusion. So what did the illusionary world teach me that made me think that I'm limited, I can't do this, I can't do that, all these, destructive thoughts within ourselves? What did it teach me about what I think humanity is capable of in a world Why do I think we need to live with an economy? Everything has to be like this. We have to vote and do all these things. There's always going to be enemies. People fear, 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 right? Survival, survival, survival. Why do we think that's what humanity is? Why do we think that's the world we have to live in? We've just been trained to accept that. That's all that is. It's not real. We didn't come to Earth. We didn't come to this place and be like, oh, well, the first people here, oh, this is just how it is. We gotta work constantly and use these little pieces of paper to exchange each other, so that we can get things. Bullshit. We don't need that. That's a fucking story. It's a story. And every time you turn on the media and all they talk about is, in the upcoming election, we're going to focus on this person, and this person says this, and this policy says this, and this thing is that, and how are we going to pay for this? And, oh, we need to work to, do this and do that. All that is we're not willing to let go of the old world, so let's find ways to just keep it going and keep talking about just that world. Instead, talk about the world that we live in today. Look at it and say, okay, the world we live in today, okay, yeah, you know what? People are struggling. There's a lot of stuff going on. People are divided. They don't like each other in some ways. A lot of it is trained programming. This stuff is happening. So we can't ignore that. It's happening. What about humanity is causing that? What about our consciousness, our way of seeing the world, what we believe about ourselves and others is causing that? What about it? All right, and this is the question. So when you go from, the CE protocol, you go, for the person who's saying I'm ranting, just say it. What I'm talking about is the content. That is the content here. But step number one, step number one, you break the illusion. Step number two, you awaken neutrality. 3, you deprogram the limits of what you think humanity needs to be, what you think you need to be like. You get to the true aspect of who you truly are. And then step number 4 of the CE protocol is living in alignment. It's practicing. It's living your truth. It's learning how to be within a space of infinite potential within yourself. Deprogramming all the stuff that we've learned and practice living that authentic self. Because that has an energetic, if you study quantum physics now, because it's part of this last process, if you look at what quantum physics has shown us, you realize that humanity makes an impact on our reality based on our consciousness. It's easy to say that. It's easy to say, hey, yeah, consciousness creates reality. Oh, your thoughts create reality. It's easy to say those things. What do those things actually mean in the context of real life? In the context of you going to your job? In the context of you paying your bills or looking to create a new world? That's what we do. That's what this is about. That's what our work is for helping to take these concepts and ideas that we talk about and put them into real life, to make it real, to make it so that it's like, oh, okay, I actually know how to shift our consciousness. And that's within all of the work that we do. And I know it's hard to see because guess what? You see this much of what we do because social media hides it all the time, right? That's just the way it rolls. That's just what happens, right? But we're creating a platform very shortly that essentially is going to bring people together, right? We're going to start doing consciousness experiments together. We're going to have collective intentions. We're going to have all these. This is something we're working on. This is one of the ways that we want to round out everything that we offer here, right? So this is going to be coming up. But the reality of the situation is it's gotten to a point. Why I did the video I did today, which again is on the feed, why I did it is because our ability to keep doing what we're doing is becoming threatened more and more and more and more all the time. And I know people don't like this conversation. Oh, now alternative media is trying to make money and play within the system. Oh, now alternative media is charging for a platform. I don't like that. Well, guess what? We live in a world that has money. Me and the other 7 or 8 people on our team that work tirelessly to create the content, to put stuff out there for 10 years, guess what? We need to pay for life. We need to pay for this stuff. Mainstream media survives because systems keep pushing money into mainstream media. Alternative media dies because systems are pulling money away from alternative and independent media. And then as a people that are watching it, we complain that independent and alternative media are trying to make money. So what happens? The systems pull money away from alternative and independent media. The people who watch independent and alternative media pull the money away because I don't want to support that. I'm not saying this is everybody. I'm saying this is some of us. Some of our perspectives are like this. And all I'm here to say is why? Why do we think that way? Why do we think money is evil? There's a comment that just came in. Money is evil. Why do we think money is not evil? Money is a piece. It's paper. It's digital. It's an idea. Money creates slavery. Sure, we live in a world where money creates slavery, but you can't create change very easily within a system that is solely reliant on money. It's hard. You need to use the money to some extent to create what's going on. Yes, the consciousness of humanity is what makes it appear as though money is evil, because the way people view things, the way people, see what's going on and how, all that sort of stuff is happening. But if we hold within ourselves, this is what our work is about, the idea that, okay, well, the system and structure is in place, it is what it is, okay, we work with it for now, but we work towards pulling our need for it. This is the key. Pulling our intention, our need for it to be that way. The system needs to be that way to some extent right now because that's just how it's built. But when push comes to shove, are we willing to let it go? Are we willing to let go the idea of needing to exchange something to get something when push comes to shove? So meaning, all right, I'm going to play within it, but I'm not going to say that this is the reality. This is all humanity's capable of. That's the difference. When people say, oh, well, if you use money, you're just playing into the system. You're not. What plays into the system is when you believe that I have to have the money and it needs to be this way and humanity is only capable of this and we need to keep doing these things over and over. And that's all you think we're capable of. But when you start stepping back and you start seeing what's going on, it's like, all right, so we're still in a bit of an adolescent stage as a collective. As a whole, humanity's in a bit of an adolescent stage and we're learning to take self-responsibility, to question our reality, to question who we truly are, what we're truly here for, what we put our energy and intention and power into. We're learning to question all those things. And as we do that, we start pulling our perspective away. We start pulling our energy away, right? Because the reality is humanity doesn't need money. We don't need trade. We don't need any of these things. There's already abundance everywhere. We make up the idea, the game, the story that we need to exchange something. It's all a made-up story. We have everything we need. That's it. It's like when people say all the time, it's like, oh my God, what are we going to do with food? Well, food's on the planet already. Create systems and structures that exchange it. Because guess what? We all need it. We don't need to compete. We buy into the story of competition. It's a story. Right? So we got to pull away from that. And at the end of the day, the way I want to cap this off, because, it's starting to rain actually here a little bit. You probably can't see that, but I'm starting to get drips all over the place. Is if we want this to continue, if you see value in what we do, if you see value in these conversations, in changing, what I'm passionate about is changing the way media is told, right? You have what's going on in the world. How can we talk about it from a conscious point of view that connects humanity at the heart? That's what moves me. That's what gets me excited. Not just yelling at each other and just talking about who's stupid and who's not stupid and what side to vote for. And guess what? All the platforms are disappearing for people like us. So we created our own platform. And in order to stay funded, the people have to come together and choose. It's your choice, not ours, to choose whether or not you see value in what we're doing. You see value in what other independent media outlets are doing. Sharing the content, supporting by becoming a member of stuff that we do, by giving donations, one-time donations, whatever it is. That's how we're going to stay alive. We're going to become people funded because all the platforms are removing our ability to make money or even reach people. It's the reality of the situation. And to answer one of the questions, we're not on Gaia. We created our own platform because we basically wanted to do things our open-ended way, right? So we have a platform. It's basically a lot of videos, right? It's membership based. We have original shows. We have a show that comes out, a new show that comes out every single week, right? So there's lots of stuff going on CETV. That's our platform. And again, we're coming out with a thing called CE Connect very soon. And CE Connect is going to basically help bring us together in conversation, because we're working on our exit from Facebook. We're working on it. So if you want to support us, if you believe in what we're doing, you want to, get behind it, it's your choice. CETV.one in your browser. You can search and see what we're doing, and you make your own choice, because that's the reality of the situation. All we can do is keep putting out what we put out, and it's up to us. It's up to us to decide whether we want to support it or whether we don't. That's a reality of the situation. Thanks again for tuning in. Thanks for watching this. Appreciate you all. Much love. Enjoy the day.